Greetings viewers, EricTheCarGuy here, and instead of my usual step-by-step detailed repair videos, today I thought I'd do something a little different and just go over my 5 tips for changing oil. Let's get started. Tip number 1, make sure you safely lift and support the vehicle that you're working on. I cannot stress this enough. I've done a video about this. I'm going to post a link in the description to all detailed information about safely lifting and supporting your vehicle. I suggest you watch that before you get started because that's going to be one of the most important things you're going to need to do when changing your oil. Now I'm going to kind of cheat a little bit. I have this awesome 2-post lift that I'm going to use to safely lift and support this van while I change the oil. Tip number 2. Always use the correct viscosity for the engine that you're working on. If you don't use the correct viscosity, it could actually damage your engine. If you're not sure where to find that information, many times it's printed on the oil cap and also printed in the owner's manual somewhere. Now it may vary depending upon the type of climate that you live in, but the owner's manual should have that all listed out for you. But just make sure you use the correct stuff for your climate and your application. And now we will drain the oil. Some people like to heat the engine up before draining the oil. That does help, but it's not necessary. You could get burned by either the exhaust or some other hot components on the engine, so it's really your choice. You're never going to get all of the oil out, but you'll get most of it. In fact, there'll probably, no matter what, still be about a quart down inside the pan. Now I'm going to remove the oil filter. Tip number 3 actually comes in parts, and you may not always be able to do this, but what you can do is fill the oil filter up with some oil before you install it, and this way, when you do install it, there's some oil in the filter and it won't start the engine up completely dry. The other thing is, what I'm doing here is taking some of that oil and putting it on this seal so that it screws on a little bit better. And lastly, you want to be sure and check the area where the old filter was for a gasket. If there's still a gasket there, you want to be sure to remove it before installing the new filter. If not, when you go to start the engine, it could be a very big mess. And only about, I'd say, a quarter turn after it's tight. Don't use an oil filter wrench to tighten the oil filter down. Tip number 4, replace the drain plug washer. Here's mine here. Some vehicles are equipped with drain plugs that have built-in seals, whatever. However, if you have, similar to this Honda, a gasket that you can actually replace, I strongly recommend replacing it whenever you change the oil. Our new drain plug washer in place. Do not over tighten. There probably is a torque spec listed someplace, likely in the service manual, but you only want to go till the crush washer is crushed, and then you're done. Now I'm going to clean this area up. Today I'm going to be using Pennzoil Platinum Plus in this engine, and it wasn't that long ago that I visited with the people at Pennzoil, and they were telling me about this particular type of synthetic and why it's different. Practically every synthetic oil that's out there is derived from crude oil, so its base oil comes from crude oil. That's what they start with, and then they go through a refining process, and then there's the additive package and everything else that gives you the synthetic oil in the end. This is a little bit different. They use natural gas to create the base oil. And the difference, as it was described to me, was that using crude oil as a base oil has molecules that are scattered all over the place. It's an organic compound in essence. But when they use natural gas to create their base oil, it's a lot more like making ball bearings. So that was the main difference, so that instead of having molecules that were scattered around, the molecular structure of their base oil was different when using natural gas because it was all uniform. So we're going to give this a try. As far as capacity, how much oil to put in, that will be listed in your service manual, also your owner's manual, so check there for your application. This takes 4.7 quarts. I'm putting 5 quarts in. That little bit of a difference, I don't think it's going to make too much of a difference. It's also a good idea to check and top off the rest of your fluids and your tire pressures when changing your oil. Tip number 5, be sure to dispose of your used oil properly. Sometimes the local auto parts store may take it in, or a local service facility may take it in. Call ahead to find out, don't assume anything. They may also charge you a small fee for this. It's an environmentally responsible way to handle your old used oil. Me, I have this drum here in the back of my shop, and I give it to my landlord who burns it in his waste oil heater. And that concludes my 5 oil change tips. Number 1, most important, be sure to safely lift and support your vehicle. Once again, there's a link in the description to a video I did about this. Look it over. Hopefully it'll give you some useful tips to help keep you safe while you're performing this procedure. Number 2, be sure to use the correct viscosity for the engine and application that you're working on. You can find that in the service manual, the owner's manual, possibly written on the oil cap. Number 3, you can add a little bit of oil to the oil filter before installing it. Now I realize some orientation of oil filters and their installation does not allow for this, but when you can, give that a try. Also, a little bit of oil in the gasket will help it go on a little better. Also check for the old gasket on the mating surface where the oil filter goes. Number 4, replace the washer, the drain plug washer, if possible. This will help prevent leaks and make for a much cleaner oil change when you're all done. Won't leave drips in the driveway, garage, that sort of thing. Number 5, be sure to dispose of your used oil properly. As I mentioned, you can contact perhaps a local auto parts store or service station. Either one of those places can possibly help you out with that. Be sure to call ahead and ask first. I'd like to give a special thanks to Pennzoil for helping us out with this video. Outside of that, if you have automotive questions, I'd ask that you head over to EricTheCarGuy.com. Welcome video there to tell you about stuff that can help you. If you wish to connect with me socially, Google+, Facebook, Twitter, also Instagram. Close each of my videos with be safe, have fun, stay dirty. I'll see you next time.